Failure. This book would not be complete without some discussion of failure in the attempted use of the law of assumption. It is entirely possible that you either have had or will have a number of failures in this respect, many of them in really important matters. If, having read this book, having a thorough knowledge of the application and working of the law of assumption, you faithfully apply it in an effort to attain some intense desire and fail. What is the reason? If to the question, did you persist enough, you can answer yes, and still the attainment of your desire was not realized, what is the reason for failure? The answer to this is the most important factor in the successful use of the law of assumption. The time it takes your assumption to become fact, your desire to be fulfilled, is directly proportionate to the naturalness of your feeling of already being what you want to be.
Spread love, man.
All right, strap yourselves in because today we're taking a deep dive into something that's really been messing with my head lately, and it's this whole idea of the law of assumption. You know, like, why does it sometimes feel like it's just not working?
It's a real head scratcher, isn't it? I mean, it's such a powerful concept. Our assumptions shaping our reality. But then you look around and it's like, wait a minute, not everyone's living their dream life just because they thought about it, right?
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we are going deep into the work of Neville Goddard, specifically his lecture notes, where he really tackles this subject head on. And, you know, I'm always on the hunt for those aha moments, those little nuggets of wisdom. And one of the first things that really jumped out at me was Goddard's focus on feeling, well, natural.
Ah, yes, the feeling natural thing. This is where Goddard really starts to unpack why the law of assumption might not be delivering the goods for some people. It's not enough to just, get it intellectually. I mean, you got to feel it deep down. And he uses this awesome analogy about being chained to a bench, to illustrate this point.
Okay, I'm all ears. Hit me with it.
All right, so picture this. You're chained to a bench, can't move, physically, but you can close your eyes and you can imagine, really vividly imagine, that you're running, feeling the wind in your hair, the ground beneath your feet. And in that moment, in your mind, it feels totally natural, like you really are running.
So we're talking about finding that same feeling of naturalness, but for the things that we want, the stuff we desire but don't have yet.
Bingo. That's it. Think about it. If you're trying to, let's say, land your dream job or find your soulmate or live in that perfect house and it feels forced or out of reach, like it just doesn't fit, it's going to be a lot harder to manifest. It's like trying to jam a square peg in a round hole.
Okay, so why does this feeling of naturalness matter so much? Is it just a mind game? Like tricking ourselves into thinking happy thoughts?
No, it goes way deeper than just positive thinking. Goddard's really talking about the power of our subconscious beliefs here. If deep down we're harboring this belief that we're not worthy or capable or deserving of what we want, that belief, it'll sabotage us every single time. Even if we're consciously trying to apply the law of assumption, our subconscious is like, nope, not buying it.
It's like our subconscious is the ultimate bouncer.
Yeah.
Deciding who gets in and who doesn't, even if we have the ticket. So how do we get past this bouncer? How do we make our desires feel more, well, natural?
And that's where Goddard brings in the big guns. Imagination? But he's not talking about some fluffy, airy-fairy kind of daydreaming. This is focused, intentional, consistent work. He's saying we need to consistently imagine ourselves in the state of having what we want, feeling it like it's already happening.
Like those athletes who visualize winning the goal before the competition.
You got it. By repeatedly experiencing the desired outcome in our minds, engaging all our senses, we're basically rewiring our subconscious, making that outcome feel more believable, more attainable, and yeah, you guessed it, more natural.
Okay, starting to see the connections here. But isn't there a catch? Like, even if we're doing all the visualizing, all the feeling, the feels, there's still that part of us, the subconscious, that might be clinging to those old beliefs.
You hit the nail on the head, and this is where Goddard drops this super provocative phrase, you die in your sins. Now, don't worry, he's not talking about actual death.
Phew, good to know.
Right. What he is talking about is this idea of staying stuck, trapped at our current level of awareness, unable to break free from our limitations and experience something new, something better.
So it's like our assumptions only work if they actually line up, like really align with what we believe deep down about ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Think of our beliefs as a filter. a filter we're seeing the world through, you know? If that filter is all gunked up with negativity or self-doubt, it's going to be tough for anything good to shine through.
It's almost like we're trying to manifest abundance, but we're still holding on to this belief in scarcity. Talk about mixed messages, right?
Exactly. It creates this inner conflict that'll sabotage even our best efforts.
Okay, so how do we ditch these old filters, these limiting beliefs that are holding us back, and finally step into a place of alignment with what we want?
Goddard's answer is pretty simple, but it's also super deep. He says that consciousness is the only reality. It's the creator of our own personal world.
Okay, whoa, now that's a statement.
I know, right? But think about it. Everything we experience, our thoughts, our beliefs, our assumptions, they all come from our consciousness. And if consciousness is the source, the wellspring of everything, then if we change our consciousness, we can change our reality.
So even when things go wrong, it's not that the law of assumption is failing us, but we're failing to use it correctly.
That's a great way to think about it. Instead of playing the blame game, pointing fingers at external circumstances, feeling like victims of fate, we actually have the power to take responsibility for our inner world. You know, to really refine our ability to hold on to the desired state with total clarity and conviction.
Okay, I'm really feeling this idea of consciousness being the key. It's
Yeah.
like we have this incredible power within us, but we're still figuring out the instruction manual. And that makes me think about faith. Goddard talks a lot about faith, but his definition, it might surprise some people.
It might, because he's not talking about blind faith, you know, like hoping against hope that something might magically happen. For Goddard, faith is this rock-solid conviction of the reality of the unseen. It's like the mental perception of the invisible.
So it's not about just hoping or wishing. It's about knowing. Knowing with absolute certainty that what we desire is real. Even if we can't see it yet, touch it, hold it in our hands.
That's it. And that's where doubt and disbelief, you know, those pesky little voices in our heads, they become major roadblocks. They're like cracks in the foundation of our conviction, weakening the signal we're sending out to the universe.
So is this like saying that we need to fully believe something is possible before we can actually see it, before it becomes a reality?
You got it. Belief is the seed, expectation is the water, and manifestation is the fruit. You can't expect a harvest if you haven't planted the seeds and nurtured them, right?
Okay, my mind is officially blown. But I have to admit, this can feel overwhelming at times. Like, how do we actually cultivate that kind of unshakable faith, especially when life throws us those inevitable curveballs?
That's such a great question, and it's one that really deserves its own deep dive. You know, what's fascinating is how Goddard connects faith to action. He emphasizes that true faith, it's not passive. It's this active force that propels us forward.
So we're not just sitting back and waiting for a miracle. We're acting as if the miracle has already happened.
Precisely. It's about aligning our actions with the inner knowing, the deep down certainty that what we desire is already ours, even if the world hasn't caught up yet.
So we're living from the end, not towards the end.
Exactly.
This is really resonating with me. So it's not just about changing our thoughts. It's about aligning our actions with those thoughts, walking the walk, so to speak.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? I mean, what does that look like in our everyday lives?
That is a fantastic question. And honestly, I think it's one that deserves a deeper exploration. In fact, I think it's the perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive. Because once we understand this connection between faith and action, we can really start to see how the law of assumption comes to life.
I am so ready for this. This is already blowing my mind. Can't wait to dive into the nitty-gritty, the practical stuff. We'll be right back. All right, I'm ready. Let's talk action. You know, like we've laid down all this amazing groundwork, feeling natural, cultivating faith, understanding the power of our consciousness. But how does it all actually translate, you know, when rubber meets the road?
Okay, let's ground this thing then. So we've talked about feeling natural in that desired state, cultivating faith, acknowledging the power of our own consciousness, right? Now let's see how all those puzzle pieces fit together when we start taking action.
Yes. Because it's easy to visualize and, like, say, affirmations, but how do you live as if your desire is already real? Goddard talks about enduring as seeing him who is invisible. That sounds kind of intense, right?
It is intense, but it's not about forcing it or pretending. You know what I mean? It's more like aligning your actions with that deep inner knowing that what you want, it's already yours, even if the outside world hasn't quite caught up yet.
Okay, I think I get that, but let's get super specific. So say my desire is to finally write that novel that's been bouncing around in my head for years. How do I go from thinking about it to actually doing it?
I love that example. Writing a novel, it's perfect, because it needs both inner and outer work. So, step 1, you got to get crystal clear about your vision. What kind of story are you telling? Genre, characters. Lay it all out.
So it's not just like, I want to write a book. I need to get granular,
Yeah.
right? Almost like I'm outlining the whole book in my mind before I even start writing.
Exactly. The more specific you are, the more real it becomes. And this is where feeling natural comes back in. Don't dwell on the fact that you haven't written a single word yet. Start feeling what it would be like to already be a novelist. Picture yourself typing away, getting lost in your story. Imagine holding that published book in your hands.
It's not pretending to be something I'm not. It's stepping into the energy of who I want to become.
Right. And as you do that, you'll start doing things, taking actions that fit with that identity. Maybe you set aside time each day to write. Join a writing group. Research literary agents. These actions might have felt daunting before, but now they just feel natural, effortless even, because you're moving from a place of already being a writer.
I love how this is all weaving together. Okay, so I'm embodying the feeling, taking inspired action, and then, well, life happens. I hit a snag, get a rejection, or just, feel my motivation dip. Does that mean I'm messing it up? That my faith isn't strong enough?
Not at all. Remember, this is a fundamental shift in consciousness we're talking about here, right? It doesn't always happen overnight. It's like when you were learning to ride a bike. There were wobbles, maybe a few falls. Didn't mean you gave up on writing.
So challenges are part of the process.
Absolutely. They can be amazing opportunities, for growth and fine-tuning. Let's say you get feedback on your manuscript that stings a little. Instead of seeing that as rejection, flip the script. Ask yourself, how can I use this to make my story stronger? What can I learn from this?
Okay, that's a much more empowering way to look at it. So instead of letting those challenges derail me, I can use them as fuel, to keep going. But there will be times when doubt creeps in. How do I keep my faith, especially when I'm dealing with those inevitable setbacks?
It's normal to have doubts, I mean. We're all human, right? The trick is to not let doubt take over. When it shows up, acknowledge it, but don't give it too much power. Just gently redirect your attention back to what you want. Remind yourself why you want this. All the incredible things waiting on the other side of this challenge.
So it's like training our minds to zero in on possibility, not the problem.
Bingo. And remember, you're not alone in this. Surround yourself with people who get it, who support your vision, lift you up, encourage you. Sometimes just talking to a friend, a mentor, it can shift your whole perspective, reignite your faith.
It makes me think about that whole fake it till you make it thing. Is that what we're talking about here? Just slap it on a happy face and pretending that everything is fine even when it isn't.
It's not about faking anything. It's about aligning your inner state, aligning it with that reality you want to create. Remember that chain to the bench analogy? You might not be able to physically break those chains, but you can choose to focus on the feeling of freedom in your mind. And as you do that, you'll start to notice subtle shifts in your outer world.
So feel it till you make it.
Right.
Right. Embodying that feeling of having what I want, even when there's no proof yet.
You got it. It's a subtle difference, but it's powerful. And as you do this, watch what happens. You'll start attracting opportunities, people, resources that you couldn't even see before. It's like the universe is stepping in, helping you succeed because you're finally vibrating at the frequency of your desire.
This is amazing. It's like not just passively hoping or wishing, but actively creating the life we want.
But is there a point where the doing becomes more important than the feeling? Like at some point, do you just have to stop visualizing and just get to work? Such a good question. It gets to the heart of Goddard's teaching. Because he's not saying it's all in your head.
Yeah.
He's saying true faith is about action. Taking those steps that match the assumption that you already have what you want.
So it's both. We need the feeling and the inspired action.
Exactly. They work together, hand in hand. Feeling fuels action. Action reinforces feeling. And as you go through this, you'll hit bumps,
Right.
challenges. But instead of seeing them as roadblocks, look at them as chances to refine your vision, strengthen your faith, deepen your commitment.
Love that. Challenges equal growth. It takes so much pressure off. You don't need to have it all figured out perfectly right from the start.
Right. It's a journey, not a destination. Patience, persistence, and that unwavering belief that our own consciousness has the power to shape our reality. That's what it's all about.
Wow, we've covered so much ground. It's clear that the law of assumption is way more than just positive thinking. It's like a blueprint for creating a life full of purpose, joy, and fulfillment. But is there a point where it's too much? Like, can you overdo it with all the visualizing and affirming?
That's what a lot of people wonder. It's easy to fall into the trap of manifesting 24/7, constantly visualizing, affirming, but never actually doing anything.
So finding that sweet spot, right, between the inner work and the outer work.
Exactly. It's a dance. Cultivate a rich inner world, but you got to ground it in action, like planting a seed. You can visualize it sprouting, blooming, but if you don't water it, give it sun, tend to the soil, nothing's going to grow.
Makes me think about all the areas of life where we can use this. It's not just about material stuff or success, you know. It's about creating the experiences that matter. Love, joy, peace, connection.
Absolutely. The law of assumption is a tool for crafting a life that lines up with your values, with your deepest desires. And that's what it's all about.
This has been such an eye-opener. Feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
Always more to uncover. And in the last part of our deep dive, I'd love to explore some techniques and practices that really help you bridge that gap between assumption and reality, manifesting desires in a way that lasts.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. We'll be right back after a quick break to dive even deeper into the how-to of the law of assumption. Stick with us. All right, let's get practical. Give me the tools. How do we bridge that gap? Going from just wanting something to actually making it real.
Okay, so one technique that I've found super helpful, it's called living in the end.
Living in the end. Okay, I like the sound of that. Tell me more.
It's all about shifting that focus, Instead of dwelling on what's missing, you really embody that feeling of already having it. Like instead of, I wish I had a more fulfilling career, it's, I have a fulfilling career. And you live that way.
But how do you actually do that? It's one thing to say live as if, but how do you make it an actual experience?
It's all about your senses. Imagine walking into that dream office, feeling that buzz of excitement, seeing yourself working on projects you love, having those conversations with inspiring colleagues. Really paint that picture in your mind.
So it's like creating this super vivid mental movie, like a daydream on steroids.
You got it. And the key is to make it feel real. What are you wearing? What are you talking about? What emotions are you feeling? The more you can immerse yourself in that mental reality, the more you shift your energy, your whole vibe. You're literally aligning yourself with the frequency of your desire.
Okay, I'm seeing how powerful this can be. But isn't there a danger of, like, getting lost in fantasy land? Detaching from the real world?
That's where action steps in. Living in the end isn't about escaping, It's about using your imagination to fuel real-world action. So you're cultivating that feeling of already having it while you're taking steps to make it happen in the physical world.
So in the case of my dream career, it's not enough to just imagine myself in that job. I need to actually be doing things like updating my resume, networking, putting myself out there.
Exactly. You're taking those actions that just feel natural, aligned with the person you're becoming. And here's the cool part. As you start taking those steps, you'll see opportunities pop up that you never even knew existed.
It's that universe has your back thing, right? The synchronicities.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. Sometimes those opportunities come disguised as challenges. Maybe you get turned down for a job. A project falls through.
So how do you stay in that living in the end space when that happens? When things don't go your way?
Yeah.
It's so easy to fall back into doubt.
It's all about perspective. Instead of seeing those as failures, look at them as course corrections, like the universe nudging you, helping you fine-tune your vision to get even clearer on what you really want.
So a no isn't really a no, it's a not yet. Or maybe even a not this way.
Right. It's about trusting the journey, The universe has a plan, even if we don't always get it.
Okay, I'm really feeling this shift. It takes the pressure off. It's like, okay, I could be open to different possibilities, but let's be real. Doubt. Doubt is a real thing. How do you handle those thoughts?
Journaling. It's a game changer. Every day, write about that desired reality as if it's already happening. The details, emotions, everything solidifies that vision, makes it stronger.
So I'm writing my own happy ending, basically.
Exactly. And surround yourself with affirmations. Write them down, put them on your mirror, make a vision board, whatever works for you.
Love that. Visual reminders.
It's powerful stuff. And don't forget gratitude. Every day, take time to appreciate the good stuff in your life. Big or small, it doesn't matter. Shifts your energy from lack to abundance.
So easy to get hung up on what we don't have that we forget to be thankful for what we do.
Gratitude is like a magnet, brings more goodness into your life. And one more thing, you don't have to go it alone. Surround yourself with supportive people, people who get you, believe in you.
Sometimes all you need is someone who gets it, to just shift your whole vibe.
Community is everything. Share your dreams with people who'll cheer you on, encourage you, be there for you.
This has been such an amazing journey. Feeling like I have a whole new set of tools now.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. Remember, this is powerful stuff, the law of assumption. But it's up to us to use it, build that rich inner world, take action, and trust the process.
Love that. So any last thoughts for our listeners?
Just keep believing, keep taking action, keep living in the end. What you want, it's closer than you think.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for this. It's been amazing. And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep creating the life of your dreams.